Hello everybody, my name is Anssi Salmi and this is a brief video about the simulation pilot that was held in Vantaa Vocational College Varia last spring. So let's start. I will share my screen and start the presentation. So I'm going to tell you, like I told you, a little info about this pilot, which was actually a great success in Varia when we held it in last spring. First, little bit about my history as short info. So I started as a teacher in 2009, Tampere Vocational College Tredu, and I was there 4 years. And after that, I changed to Varia, and I was there as teacher, and later on I was lecturer from 2013 to 2021. And after that, I have spent 2 years in Southeastern Finland University of Applied Sciences, XAMK. So if you count my total years as a teacher, I have done almost 15 years as a teacher role. So some experience from that. Alongside my main job, I have done also a lot of development things with digital learning environments, and especially with the simulation environments. You could say that the simulations are like my big passion, and it's almost like hobby to me also to do things with the simulations and the development of the simulations. There is a couple of my biggest projects with the simulations. When I was in Varia, we had this whole development of the logistics sector simulation learning environment. And if I remember right, we had 12 or 13 different simulators at the same time when it was the best time in our simulation development. But nowadays I think that there are a little bit less simulators than then it was. Another big project was also a truck simulator project at Tredu, and that was actually a project that consists only one simulator, but that was actually a very big simulator. It was like this kind of a full cabin solution. It was a full cabin truck simulator, and that was actually quite expensive too. Also, I have done numerous smaller projects inside the digital learning environment specialist field, and I have been like a project manager or project worker. There has been some little projects also, and I have also done these simulation expert services, and my trademark is Simulation Wizard, and you can find my web page from the simulator.fi. There is also an English section. So if you ever has some kind of problems with simulations, or you just want to know more about simulators or simulations, or you are just in need of a simulator consultant, please, you can contact me, and I think that we could do something with your problem, or if everything goes well, maybe we could have a project or something like that. But basically, and that's one of my roles also, that I will do simulation expert services. My education is, you could say that basically started in 2008 when I graduated from the Bachelor of Engineering. That was logistics also. 2012, I got my pedagogical studies ready, And 2 years after that, 2014, I got my master of engineering also in logistics. And starting from 2020, I have been in Aalto University doing my doctoral research. My research is involving, of course, simulations. I'm trying to figure out what is the best setup when you think about different simulations. The scale is very large, and there is a low fidelity simulations, there's a high fidelity simulations. My goal is to somehow find what is the best way, if you think about pedagogical view, what is the best way to use these simulators. Is it always mandatory to use this complex and maybe cost simulators and big simulators, or can you do good results in pedagogical way, even these bit smaller simulations or simulators? But that's another story, but that's basically my focus on the research. But then let's go back to the main topic, and that simulation pilot that I was pleasure to have with Vantaa Varia last spring. So it was going on spring 2023, and we conducted a pilot trial of scenario-based live simulations in Vantaa Varia, and you can see the following fields here that was participated. There was, of course, logistics, because that's my own professional area. There was security, then there was social and healthcare, and construction. But what about the live simulations? What is live simulation? So basically, you could say that they are similar, like if we are talking about role playing or theater. But the big difference is that there is a pedagogy inside this idea. So that's the reason that I'm not calling live simulations as a role playing or theater playing. They are simulations because there is great pedagogical view inside of these simulations. These live simulations are still basically simulated real life situations where the students can participate and they can do different things inside the simulations. And that's one of the greatest thing actually in live simulations, that we will activate those youngsters. That if you think about, for example, vocational education, at least in Finland, I think that the students in vocational education are more practical than theoretical. So that's why using this kind of live simulations is quite a good and easy way to teach different things. But of course, these simulations has to be closely tied to the instructor's curriculum. That's the basic idea. And one of the good ways is also that these kinds of live simulations doesn't require significant investment. So often, if you think about simulations, you may be thinking about those big simulators. For example, in aviation, there could be a very costly simulator. For example, an aeroplane simulator could cost 15 million euros. So that's actually quite big sum of money. So in contrast to that, if you think about live simulations, you can basically start with €0. So it's all about the imagination and creativity of the teacher or the education organization. So that's one of the great things about live simulations. But let's look one example about live simulations. This is from the pilot what we had in Varia, and this is from the security field, and this is security student. And the basic idea is that the teacher has created here a scenario that this youngster goes to apply for a job. So she walks into the some organization. It might be, for example, local store or something like that, and she's asking if he could have a job for a summer. So let's see how this simulation goes. Okay, that it was. I'm not actually sure if you did hear the sound, but that's not the main point. The main point is that this was an example about very simple simulation. This was about 40 seconds, so it's not always the main thing is not how long it lasts. Or you can have a smaller or bigger simulation, but the basic idea is that this is pretty easy to create, and actually this kind of like a job application simulation goes very well with almost every area of education, because this kind of situations are very common in actually in every area. So you have to apply for a job, of course. Okay, that was one example of live simulations. In this pilot, we had also construction line, and here you can see a couple of pictures for them about them simulations there. And the main idea in this field was to have a safety walk. So the students wandered around a specific area, and then there was this kind of safety hazards that the students had to notice and maybe do something in instant or maybe later, but they have to notice these hazards, and that's the basic idea for a safety walk. Then we had also you can see in this small picture we had simulations in healthcare section, and those simulations are basically mostly doing interactions between humans. So I think this was some kind of a social meeting going on there. So actually the healthcare section is pretty easy place for a simulation creation, because there's a lot of things that people do together. So it's pretty easy place to create a very good and easy access simulations. Okay, why we did it? The basic idea was in my mind when I was working inside the vocational education. It was, for me, it was 12 and a half years there, and I was always thinking how we could use simulations like a effective way. Okay, I must admit that I have done a lot of not so effective simulations with the simulators. We had a lot of simulators in logistics, like I just told you, but all the time the using of the simulations wasn't ideal. There was a lot of problems, and I tried to figure out what was the best way to use simulations. But after, when I went out of this this vocational education bubble, I noticed that maybe using live simulations, that is the best way how we can utilize those simulations in vocational education. So that's the baseline. And here you can see some of the positive things that goes on the vocational education and the using of simulators, especially there. So they engage students. Okay, that's one very positive thing. They liven up the teaching. Oh, good. This is almost the same as the number one. They provide teachers with a new tool for instruction, so that's using the live simulations. And this is one of the greatest things also, that they are easy to implement practically without any investment. So you don't have to buy any expensive simulators. You just need a pen and paper, or maybe PC computer and open Word document. That's the baseline, and there you are just starting to create your own scenarios which are suitable for your own field. So that's almost so easy. Of course, there's a lot of things that you have to think, but basically it's actually pretty easy to create a one simulation scenario. How we did it? Okay, like I told you, we had 4 different fields of education: logistics, security, social and healthcare, and construction. And in logistics, we also use, like in construction, we also used this kind of a safety walk scenario where the students went into the certain place and they wandered around, and then they have to pick up those safety hazards from there. But then we also had this very excitement and this very nice forklift accident scenario where the basic idea was that a group of students goes into the terminal. It is some kind of organization's terminal, and then there is a couple of workers on the other side of the warehouse or terminal, and they are working with a forklift, and suddenly something dramatic happens. There is some kind of a forklift accident, and then we look how the students who are on the other side of the terminal or the warehouse, how they react. They had to react somehow. So whether they go to assist or whether they do nothing, okay, that's not very good thing. But I think that you got the point. So the basic idea is that they first have the theoretical lessons before this simulation lessons, and teachers will tell there what they had to do if something happens, and after that, briefly after that, we will have this kind of sudden simulation accident in warehouse environment, and then we can see in practical, has the theoretical lessons teach anything about for the students. So they will have to show what they actually know in practical. So that was pretty awesome simulation scenario, I think. Okay, security, we have talk about this, and I actually showed you the video. So they had actually the teacher in security section had a lot of experience with this kind of live simulations already. So he had actually a couple of different scenarios already there, and one of those scenarios were like this job application simulation. So that was cool also. In social and healthcare, they had a couple of different scenarios also, and like we just saw, there was a multiple scenarios related to interacting with the clients, because that's very easy to do in healthcare. You could say that almost every situations that will come up on the real field, you can also simulate in educational environments, because almost every scenarios are doing something with human people, so that's pretty easy to simulate. So that's why social and healthcare section is a pretty good way to start the simulations. Okay, and construction, we also had this called safety walk simulations. Okay, what about the results? And the pilot was well received across different fields, so there was a lot of positive feedback, and here you can see we have a student feedback And teacher feedback. Okay, students say that very interesting, challenging on self. Everything went well and there wasn't much to improve. Simulations are or would be good way to learn how to work in the field and more. Everything went well. Should improve my ability to listen during long course days. So even the students noticed that this kind of teaching tool is very much more than if you are just sitting on the theoretical lessons and listening to teachers talk. And this is way more better way to teach these basic ideas for the students. So that's very good to hear also from the students that this was very nice experience and it was something different than the theoretical lessons. Okay, teachers gave also very good feedback. A good method brings concreteness and functionality, for example. The simulation part as part of the occupational safety and car training. Provides a realistic and authentic event related to the subject of being taught. Liveliness, access to real situations, experimental learning. Simulations are the future and it's interesting to work with them. So also very good results and feedback from the teachers. Okay, how we can utilize the simulations in vocational education. Like I have been told in this presentation, simulations are very suitable for any field, so there is no any errors or blocks. You can use it in everywhere, basically. Couple of things there. Imagination, that's one of the biggest things when you are thinking about the simulation scenarios. Basically, you can create whatever comes to your mind, but you have to make it clear that what is the most beneficial thing that we can use in our fields. So same is there when I'm meaning this limitation. What makes sense to do? So if you compare, for example, engineering or technical areas, for example, healthcare, in healthcare, there's basically everything you can simulate. But in engineering fields, and there's a lot of things that it's not wise to simulate. My own example is often that it's not wise to simulate, for example, winter starting the vehicle, for example. If you have to start vehicle in a winter condition, the best way to do is to do this kind of thing is go to the outside when there is cold. It's not wise to bring your car in the freeze. You have to, for example, you have to create a very big freeze first, and then you have to drive your car there, and then you can do the same thing if you would like to do it in simulation. So that's not wise. So there is a different things in different areas which are wise to do and which make sense to do in simulation, but this can depend in different areas. And maybe the most important thing overall is the goal orientation. So you have to always keep in mind the goal of the simulation. So I could say that this is the first thing that you have to think about before you are going to execute any simulations. You have to think about the goal, why we are doing this simulation. And this has to be from the curriculum, basically. If you think about the education institutes or organizations, these goals, learning goals, comes from the school's curriculum. So that's the basic thing when you are thinking to utilize simulations. Okay, some things about content. Of course, like I just told you, you have to do the implementation on the courses and on the coursing module, and behind that is that curriculum what I was just talking about you. This supports student engagement, and that's especially in vocational education, that's great because the students, like I told you, usually are more practical than theoretical in vocational education. And then, of course, if you think about the scenarios, you have to choose scenarios that are suitable for the simulation. For example, they are short, they're easy to implement, involves multiple students, or are difficult to teach in theory. So these are the main contents and the main things when you are thinking about utilizing the simulations in your own field. And the last one is be bold, be creative, just try it. So my last words are usually here that just try the simulations. You can basically forget the pedagogical views in maybe in first or second simulations. Okay, this is actually this is not so good way to say, but basically if you start the experimentation and you would like to start the simulations, maybe you can first forget the pedagogical things, and when you have tried a couple of times, of course, then you have to bring the pedagogy there, because there is no sense to use simulations in a long way without any pedagogical views. But maybe you could just try it with your students, and if they says it okay, or if it goes well, maybe you can do another simulation, and then you can implement the pedagogy there. So just be bold and try it. I think when you try it, you never will forget it. Yes, thank you. That was my short path to in the wonderful world of simulation for you. So if you have something to ask, or you would like to know something else, or if there was something that wasn't clear to you for this first time, just please don't hesitate. You are very warmly free to contact me, so you can ask basically anything about the simulations, or if you would like to have some kind of simulations consultant time, or if you have some problems with the simulations or simulators, please contact me. I can also do this is in English, so so that's not problem for me. So you can go to my web pages, or you can send an email to me, or you can contact me in, for example, in Instagram or Twitter. But thank you everybody, and let's hope we can see a lot of simulations in the future. Thank you.